Hi, this is Lori Leisure from To the Trade podcast, and I'm talking to someone who I've known forever and I adore, Ross Dunn from Step Forth. Ross, please introduce yourself to our interior design community.
Thank you, Lori. Yes, it's can't believe how long it's been since we met each other. It's amazing, and it was so lucky. My name is Ross Dunn. I'm the owner of Step Forth Web Marketing. This is our 26th year of business. Still can't believe that. Never get anyway. It's just amazing how time flies. Everyone knows that, I know, but it's still amazing. um, since the beginning, that was 97. I've worked doing search engine optimization. I don't even know if they called it then, but that's essentially what we were doing, trying to get those rankings for clients. Uh, Over that time, I've worked with everything from the smallest of businesses, like a little bakery, to Time Inc. in New York, where I did SEO for Sports Illustrated, People Magazine, and et cetera, et cetera. And it was fun, but it's not as rewarding as working with small businesses. So I really found that my calling, and I've got a phenomenal team of 11 of us that focus entirely on just getting more businesses for our clients. Also, the host of the SEO 101 podcast, the longest running SEO podcast in the world. It's been going since 2006. I took over in 2009. I personally got 460 episodes in the can, and I just continue doing it because it's so much fun. It's been a great haul.
And that's sort of like how I met you a little bit because you
Yeah.
were sort of talking about that on Google Plus back in our Google Plus days when interior design community first started. And we met and I brought you into our old time Google Hangouts. Those were really fun,
Those
the
were
good old
fun.
days.
I like those a lot. I wish they
I
hadn't gone away.
do. I miss it. I actually thought it was really fun. But I think this is going to be just as fun. And I think that, we're going to have a lot of our members really excited that we're going to be doing content like this because we're really focusing this podcast in a really neat way. Our plan is to separate ourselves by really thinking about productivity tips that will help interior designers maintain a better work-life balance. That's our real mission. So if you have an idea of something that could help a designer, we want to be able to give them a better work-life balance by giving them real information that they can make actionable items to make their businesses better. And what better place really to start than websites? Because I think designers are very overwhelmed when it comes to websites. You've worked with designers in the past. You know that
Mhm.
it's a really tricky problem for them because they love the art side, but they're not necessarily understanding the SEO side. So start off, I think, from the very beginning. What is SEO?
Sure. So, it's funny. Whenever I get asked that, I'm like, how do I describe it? And I get in my head. So I wrote it down. What I call it anyway. Search engine optimization is the process of improving the content on a website to maximize its free or organic, whatever you want to call it, rankings on search engines. So these are the non-paid rankings, and it provides the best bang for your buck or time, simply put, because when you put the effort into to optimize a site and gradually improve your rankings organically, you put yourself in a place where you don't have to pay for those rankings, which Google doesn't like. But
Right, right.
it's it is important, and it's a foundation of how a website succeeds.
I love it. I love it. I mean, I think that's one of the, advantages of a small business is that they can improve their ranking. And that would allow them to get those searches because they can't really afford the marketing that comes with paid pay-per-click. So what do you think about, let's start out sort of, what are the foundations that you think about what a website needs to have SEO? I hear a lot of designers who say, I need SEO for my website. I've hired a web developer. They know SEO, but I don't think the designers understand that it's an ongoing process. Like putting together a website that has SEO,
Yeah.
it's not a one and done thing. It's never a one and done thing.
They always use the old saying that um, jack of all trades is kind of really not the place to. I actually just lost
Master
the
of
saying.
none.
Thank you. Thank you.
Yes.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Yeah, is more true than it ever used to be. We used to say that even back at like 12, 15 years ago. But the fact is, it's even more complicated now to get any kind of visibility. So I've rarely, I think in my whole career, I think I've maybe met two designers that have done a good job of SEO. And it's fair. I mean, they've got enough on their plate already. How can you do a great job of both? It's just not really logical. And when you get into agencies that can do both, that's better because they have expertise by person. You know, they have people dedicated to each thing. And I think that's the most important part, but that gets more expensive too. So you have to find a middle ground. Agencies tend to charge a lot. We're technically an agency, but we focus on small business. So we understand budgets. we,
Right.
we go, okay,
Right.
it's all right. Let's just start with 1 foot. Let's just get out there and we'll give you some consulting and get you in the right direction and we'll work with you and grow with you. And as a result, I'm very proud. I can't tell you, this is what I love. We've got multiple clients that have been with us 20 years.
I
And
love that. I love that.
that's
And
so cool. Yeah.
I think that that's one of the things that really made me want to be friends with you from the very beginning because like you were one of the first SEO people I ever talked to that I thought he's trustworthy. And you just don't I hate to say that there's a lot of like snake oil salesmen, but I just feel like if your web developer is telling you they're going to hand deliver you a website that has SEO in it, that's snake oil because that is not, yes, they can have put SEO elements into the website, sure. But if they're not telling you that SEO is an ongoing thing that you can constantly have to monitor and add content to gain SEO and have a plan for that, that that's lying to you, frankly, right?
Yeah. My late dear friend Dana Lukadu used to always say something that I now say every single interview, every single article I write. You have to earn the right to rank, and it's so true. My gosh, even more today. You can have a website, but everyone's got a website now, especially with the advent of Squarespace and all these different places. Now, how do you get above the noise? And
Right.
that is earning it through great signals, through actual work, unfortunately. Because there are times where we're like, I just got the ranking. Yay, I'm all done. And sometimes you get that lucky. It's amazing. I've seen websites that are brand new all of a sudden eclipse my client sites, and it's frustrating. Like, what the hell, Google? But it won't last. Yeah, that's the thing. I mean, and you've got to work on it on a regular basis.
Right, right. And I think that it's really kind of funny because I was remembering telling someone just recently that one of the reasons we started the podcast was because and now some of these are defunct, but for I think I read somewhere along the lines of like for every 1 out of 6 people, there's a blog, but out of 14 and 14 almost 1500 people there's a podcast. So your chance of being a smaller number and a bigger pool is better if you have a website. But one thing I think that designers maybe don't understand is how the local SEO component is such a huge benefit for them. Like they're not thinking like I am of like trying to rank for interior designers. Like think about that. I'm trying to get interior designers to pay attention to me. That's a very broad, you know, base. But designers are really just trying to find local clients in their local area. And that's a little bit easier to do, isn't it?
Yeah, although I've had the fortune to work with quite a few interior designers, thanks to working with you, and it has been a bit of a scattering. I'd say 50% of them don't want local. 50% of them they want to be found everywhere.
I'm
And
sure they do. I mean, I would say
yeah, so I
every
have a long
designer
conversation
wants,
with them.
I know every designer wants like that
Yeah.
international audience, but I would say most of them are best served by making a really big point of going after the low ground audience. If I would say if your client base is even like 75% in your local radius,
Mhm.
paying attention to local SEO is really important, don't you
Yeah.
think?
I 100% agree.
Yeah.
I do just have to acknowledge that there are different types, as you know.
Sure,
You get
absolutely,
some that have a
absolutely,
focus on
absolutely.
really premium homes and there's only so
Of
many, that
course.
kind of stuff. But, and that's, I guess, those are the ones I've gotten the most of, which, hey, I can't complain. They're usually a different focus. But when it comes to interior designing, having that local base is going to be a big deal. The other issue I run into, and I don't want to get into all the troubleshooting, it's just where my mind goes because I'm always dealing with this, but is, do you really want to show your address? Because you don't have a physical location.
Right. Some of them
And
don't, some of them do, but it's a show, if they have a showroom or if they have a studio, but there are many designers who operate out of their homes, and that's tricky, isn't it?
it is really tricky. And what they're faced with is either showing their address or not. And if they don't, they can either add it to the system and tell Google not to show it, which is a ranking hit. Google won't let you rank as well, or call yourself a service area business where you don't even have to have an address. I mean, you'll have to put your personal address or something just so Google can clarify you exist, but it won't have any impact now on your rankings. It's going to be like, okay, I work in these areas and you set a map point. They're not treating you very, if you do that as one of those users online, they're not treating you very well. Google's still not allowing service area businesses to do as well as a person who has a physical location that is publicly available. And I can see why. There's tons of spammers out there. That's what Google's always up against, right?
Right.
So, yeah, I've thought of different ways that people can work around that, but I don't want to take over here. So, where would you like me to go from here? I
Well,
guess.
I think we'll probably start with like the basics that you need on your website. And I think if you do have a physical address, is it important that you have your address on your homepage?
Yeah, yeah. So your site is going to be critical for uh, the overall trust factor that Google is looking for. They're going to want to see that you have a map embedded on your site using Google Maps API. It's something that your designer would want to implement. It's unfortunately not as simple as you would like to think. It should be. So have that embedded. And you usually see that when you go to a website that's got any kind of locale base marketing. It's got it at that map at the bottom that has their listing. You can click on it and go to their Google business profile with all their information. So you do need a Google business profile that needs to link to your website, and your website needs to be providing those signals that you are in that locale and that you are a verifiable, trustworthy business.
Now, is that your Google My Business page or is that your web tools or your,
Both.
that's both of them? Okay.
Yeah. So you
But
want your
both
Google
of them.
business profile, first of all.
Yes.
Yes, we kind of skipped that. And that's important. And that's critical, in fact. And that's what we were talking about, picking that area where you work, if you're doing a service area, or just listing your address if you have some kind of a physical location you don't mind sharing. And then you have to uh, propagate or complete the profile with your hours of operation, your services offered, images of your location, images that's internally and externally. Um, it's actually quite a long list now. It used to be very few things you needed to put in, but they've got a lot of stuff you can do in a Google Business profile, and they want to see you active in it because that just smooths good old ego of the Google bot.
Well, on top of that, I mean, there are lots of businesses that go out of business and they're not active. So, how is Google to know whether or not a business is still in business or if they aren't? I mean, nobody disables their Google My Business after they've closed. Usually they forget to do that. So, I mean, I would assume if you're updating it on a regular basis, semi-regular, even like a monthly or quarterly, it at least tells Google, hey, I'm still around. I'm still doing something with this.
Yeah, and if you're writing on a regular basis on your website, which I do think is important, either
Yes.
articles or blog posts, yes, very
Yes.
important. It creates life on your site that both Google can see from a search engine spider point of view, and it goes, "Hey, this is new content. Oh, it's about a new topic. Let's see if they can get a ranking for that." And then you get more visibility. But you can also leverage those as Google posts on your Google business profile, which is another place where you can add content. And that offers dividends as well. It's tiny, but all these things add up. So it shows life on your profile. And if you go to a Google business profile that has done this, and you just do a search for any business, you'll see below their main profile, if they do Google posts, a few examples of their latest posts. And you can click on them and read them. And they're small, they're really just an ad in a way. Here's an image and then below a bit of text, and that's it. But it does serve to, again, show there's life
Right.
and that there's a validity to the business.
Right. So if I was starting from scratch, I have a designer that I know very well who actually doesn't have a website. They actually started with a house website, and
Yeah.
now they're trying to transition out of house because they didn't feel like they got the advertising that they wanted. And so they're looking, how do I, build from scratch? Which platform should I use? Which theme should I use? All of those questions are so um overwhelming, I think, for a designer who's like, this is Greek to me. So like,
Yeah.
what do you suggest? What are some platforms you suggest? I mean, there's so many now. And what are some themes you like?
If I had a ideal situation, my rule of thumb is never to trust a third party. So have your own website on WordPress, somewhere where you can host anywhere, build it from there. Now, there are costs involved. You build a website, getting a designer, you're going to spend a few $1,000s, and then you're going to have some upkeep to maintain that site and make sure it doesn't get hacked, and you're going to have hosting. It isn't the cheapest solution, but it's the most reliable long-term solution to having a great presence. That said, I know from dealing with a lot of businesses that are perhaps starting out or whatever, Squarespace is very attractive, Wix is very attractive. Uh, if I had to pick between all of them, I'd suggest Squarespace. If you had to pick something that is third party, it's easily the best one that I've experienced. Uh, but my default is always WordPress. It is beautifully built for SEO. There's phenomenal drag and drop themes out there if you want to build it yourself. I don't necessarily recommend that because it is a bit of a rabbit hole, but
Right.
it can be done. Um,
Yes, yeah. And are there particular, that's one of the things that I noticed about a lot of sites that are built themselves is the lack of security, and sometimes they are easily hacked. Are there plugins that you like, or are there plugins you do kind of steer away from
no,
plugins?
we do have some. I mean, so WordFence is probably one of the more common ones people use, and it's not bad. It's better than nothing by far. We've actually licensed our own one, what we use for our clients, because we offer solutions. We call it Step 4 Security Pro, and I don't mean this to be a promotion. I'm just saying that we do that. Plus, we have Dennis, who you've worked with before, I think, or spoken with before. And Dennis is he's been maybe 22 years, I think, doing development. And he, alongside this security thing, whenever a plugin needs to be updated, and that's where you find the holes. That's where hacking
Yes.
happens. If a plugin's not updated on time, or if it does get updated, something else breaks. He's checking. He's making sure those updates are done, but then he's checking to make sure nothing is broken on the site. The forms aren't broken. One of the biggest, by the way, issues I've ever seen for businesses to lose business is their form breaks and they don't even know it. Test your forms monthly.
Right.
I've
Yeah.
saved you thousands of dollars right there. It is
Right.
incredible how many that times that breaks. Um, so he's testing all this stuff, and that's part of what we do, as well as backing up and putting security in. But if you, again, want to do it yourself, WordFence is a very decent option. Blog Vault is pretty decent for making sure you got lots and lots of backups. I am paranoid. I've worked for too many companies that have had mistakes. So if you use something like Blog Vault or our system, you get 90 days of backups.
Ah,
That's invaluable because if your site was hacked and you don't know when, you may find it was 60 days ago and you've only got 30 days of backups.
right.
Uh, and yeah, anyway, I won't
It
get
it
into
can
it, but
happen, and
it's
because I mean, honestly, if you're the designer listening to this, how often do you really go to your own website? That's another thing. I mean, are you going to your site on a regular basis? Some
Mhm.
designers do, and they check things, and some designers I know don't. And if you aren't, having some sort of backup is really, really smart. We're seeing it from the social media side all the time, people getting hacked right and left. I mean, really, really amazing designers, because maybe they didn't have like the double authentication, or they didn't have good passwords and good password protection. And it's just such a shame
So
to see people
this
losing
is
things that they worked
this
so
is a
hard.
true, and this is an advanced version of it, but you can get a YubiKey, it's called. And these ones you literally plug into your phone or your computer and you press with your finger on it and it actually activates and unlocks things. There's no hack in this. unless
Right.
someone steals it. And I've never been hacked. I'm paranoid. And it's because of stuff like this. It's worthwhile because just think how much money and branding you're putting into this.
Oh yeah. And time.
Yeah.
Time is
Yeah.
money too. I mean, designers spending so much time at something they don't like to do. So
No.
that
Time
is,
is valuable. It's the one thing we don't have a ton of, you know?
yes, yes. So how do you think that once you have established, you picked a platform like WordPress and you've picked a theme that you want to go for, and then you've even you're working with a developer, you have your main pages, like for a designer, that's like your home page, your about us, your portfolio, your contact form, and then you want to have a blog, right? I mean, that's the gist of it.
Mhm.
Um, what do they need to do to figure out what to put on their blog? I mean, how do they do keyword research, particularly for their local client, but any any keyword research? What do you suggest?
Okay, so I'm trying to pull myself back because this is something we do
No,
a lot
I
of.
know
And
this is too much for I want the more dumbed down version that a designer would be able to handle if they were writing, like, say, for instance, a blog post.
okay, so one of the things I love to do, and I think no matter who you are, you can easily do this, is look at some of the content that's succeeded. There's a program that, again, this is a rabbit hole, but there's a fairly simple program called Content Animal that you can go to a website online called Content Animal, and you can type in the topic, and it will show you all the content that's done well under that topic, how many shares it's received, and what kind of life it's had. And it's a fantastic way. It's part of what we do for our authority building plans, where we do literally create the plan for all the content they're creating based on content that's succeeded somewhere in the world. It doesn't matter if it was Timbuktu. If it did well for interior design, that's a great idea. It's probably something you import to yourself in your own area. Um, it's fabulous for doing that. So you can try that. Look at some of the content that's done well socially if you don't want to use a tool. Uh, I'm not sure how you could accurately do that easily though, because a lot of that data is proprietary and you got to pay for it a little bit. But I'm probably overthinking this as usual. I think
One of the
that
things I like too, and that I've
yeah.
past recommended to designers is to go to Ask the Public and
Mhm.
put in something about their local, they
Answer
can
the
put
public.
in answer the public, yes, answer the public. And they can put in something local, like they could say New York interior designer or something. And then you can do up to 3 searches a day for free. And that will spit out a circle that will give you all these questions. And then you take those questions and you put them into Google and you see what other questions come up. And if your blog post answers the first question and it answers the additional questions, you're in the right area at
Yeah,
least.
you're right. And I should have thought of that. People also ask is a great opportunities too. And that's when you do a
People
search in
also
Google,
ask.
you'll see
Yeah.
people also
Yep.
ask and there's going to be some ideas that you can work from there. It,
Absolutely. And do you
yeah.
think that if they do that on a regular basis, for me, it's like the designers are having this is just an overwhelming process because they just don't have the physical time to spend blogging and doing social media and marketing in other ways. It's so difficult for them because they also have a full-time job designing. So it's important and they know it. And usually they're in the midst of a project. And then once the project ends, they're like, okay, where's my next project? But to fill that pipeline, they needed to be doing the marketing. So then they start getting marketing done and then they get a project and then that comes. So there's this, lull that happens. And I would like for them to start, maybe even if they could, and I know this is cheating and there's a little, controversial, but using ChatGPT and things like that to get
Go
them
nuts.
starting, like it's not going to
Totally.
be the blog post, but it's going to get you thinking about what it's saying about, gets it like the framework done. These are the questions answered. And then you go in and write your expertise and your stories and your ideas that actually you can add to because this is the stuff like, when a client dealt with that particular problem and how you solved it. And what you really think about how to handle something. I mean, that's just pulling internet information. It doesn't necessarily mean that would be how you handle the problem or how you would address something or information about that particular topic. So being able to do that at least gets them. I just want them to be able to get content out there and to really start. I mean, if they do, let's just say, I mean, I don't know. You've talked to a lot of designers. I've talked to a lot of designers, but I think on a regular basis, designers have a very difficult time managing regular social media content and regular website content. So is this something that can help them?
Yeah. So first of all, I think it applies to any business, small business owner. It's
Right.
just, there's just too much going on, and frankly, they'd rather be doing other things. So it makes
Sure.
good sense. Now, when it comes to AI, I am on that bandwagon fiercely. I
Good.
was really tentative at the beginning, and just I think anyone else was. I think you just naturally want to be safe, but it made no sense to me that Google would have any problem with AI as long as it was offering value.
Right.
And they finally came out and said that. I'm like, there you go. I mean, why would they have a problem with it? If it's actually adding value to the internet, good,
Right.
great.
Right.
Now, when it comes to creating content, one of the things that I go by, and this is what I teach my staff, and it's so important, is that when you're creating the prompt that creates the content, write it first and add your expertise into that. You know, if you were going to write an article, gosh, I'm bad with examples off the cuff, but um, that includes some experience picking colors for your house or something.
Right.
You could write, "This is my experience," or so incorporate my experience of uh, picking this color for this type of location. And if you're bad a place where it's in Alaska,
Yeah.
whatever,
Sure.
there's different things, there are different locales and different backgrounds and backdrops, whatever. You can incorporate some of this. It doesn't have to be fancily written. That's the beauty part. And then you say, create, act as an interior designer, and based on this, create this, and just see what comes out. And as long as you're not just asking it to
Right.
create it out of the blue, where
Yeah.
it's
Write it
grabbing
for you.
other
Here, write me
people's
a blog
ideas.
post about, about, I don't know, 18th century paintings. You know what I mean? Like,
Yeah.
you know, that's not really something that, and that I think that you want it to be interesting for your audience. And that's another thing I think that designers sometimes maybe aren't thinking about when they're doing their website is really getting in the mind of their audience and what does the audience care about and what do they want to hear and what do they, so if I was doing a post about outdoor furniture, I would be talking about like I would probably talk about that in the springtime when people are taking out their outdoor furniture or put in the fall when they're putting it away. And I would have like ideas of different materials that they could use and, material, how are they going to be able to keep the elements off of these materials? And, how are they taking care of their outdoor grill or cooking equipment and, safety tips and cleaning tips and ideas about placement for sunshine and so that they're able to have shade and sun in this in the throughout the day as the sun moves, things that would be very useful. And you could really tie that into, say, if you were in Long Island, for instance, and you could talk about, the particular, the sound and how the wind is coming off of the sound and the air quality and how you're handling all of these elements and your property and keeping it in the best shape you possibly can. These are useful things I would think that a design client in Long Island would want to know.
Exactly. And the way I was sort of going off a second ago, the direction I was taking there is that if you build it into the prompt, you don't have to then redefine it and rework the content so much at the end when you've got
Sure.
the content provided. It's actually based on your expertise.
Right.
And because the opposite is you just get it from the internet, which comes from anyone. It's full of possible incorrect information. I mean, that's still a possibility, but it's less likely. And you're that much closer to creating something. And then you don't have to do all the polishing that you would have had if you created from scratch, like
Right.
by yourself,
Right.
which is, we get, all of us, I think, get writer's block, or there's those
Sure.
days where just, I can't think. I, oh my gosh, AI has been a dream for that. I just start off my conversation or start off my idea with this. Oh, perfect. 10 seconds later, I've got what I needed to get my mind in the right
Right.
place.
Yes. Now,
Yeah.
do you think that designer, like if you're telling a designer, you have one, you have several that work with you, but what do you ask them for the commit? Well, you're asking a business owner to commit to blogging, which is
Yeah.
difficult. But if in your dream client that would give you the content that you need to make that site as wonderful as it needs to be for their defined local audience, how often would they be blogging?
It depends on how competitive their market is where they are and what they're trying to target. But let's just say on average, 2 per month's fine.
2 per month
I
is
mean,
fine.
yeah. And I mean, I don't mean a 400-word post. I mean something that's actually going to be shareable, something people are going to look at and go, "Wow, this is impressive. This is exactly all my questions answered for this topic." It doesn't have to be an ultimate article, which is thousands and thousands of words. Those are good, by the way. Do them once every 2 or 3 months. They're so worthwhile, and you can have AI help you with that. But make it something substantial, something that you would want to read and you would want to share. And that's one of the litmus tests I always use. Do I really feel like this is something that's compelling?
Right.
And does it cover the pain points? Cover all the things that are going to drag or call upon your prospects. And if it's not your prospects, this is one of the hardest things I have to get across to clients sometimes is content isn't necessarily to drive in business. It's to drive signals, shares. You're proving to Google that you've earned the right to rank. So you're getting these signals coming in from people sharing your content. And they're from, again, they could be in Timbuktu. It doesn't matter if they're sharing it there. It's showing Google that you're creating something that's valuable. That way your site ranks for areas that do matter, which do drag in prospects.
Yes, I agree with that. Yeah, absolutely. And what do you think about video content? Is that still an advantage on a website?
Beautiful. Yes.
Beautiful.
Anything
Okay.
that other people don't like to do, do it. In a sense, like, and video is up there. I mean, I try and get my clients to do video, and I'd say 1 in 5 do. But when they do it, it's so much more personable. There's a person behind this, especially interior designing. I mean, heck, you're hiring a person and you
Right.
want to know that person. You want to feel a connection with them. And if you have that kind of personality, put it out there. If you don't,
Sure.
may not be in the right industry, but you need to be able to connect with people, right? And I think
Yeah.
99% of the interior designers can. So put it out there. Be you. Don't hold back, and it'll pay huge dividends because otherwise you're just another interior designer website. They're going to.
Right, right. So if you have so you should have some, maybe like even on the homepage, like a video that introduces you and your company, maybe talks about your process, what the design process looks like. That would be interesting. I know that I talked to a photographer not too long ago who was telling me that they sell their video and photography in half day, full day bulk orders, and they'll do things like that for you. So when you're getting your portfolio images done, maybe you're asking for some video content there that will help you with your social media and also your website. But you could also have them sometimes, change up the outfit and, have them do some video content of you. And
Mhm.
also, would it be great to maybe, if you have it, be able to, film the reveal and get video testimonials? Is that something that would be
Dreamy.
great?
That's the dream. That
That's the
is,
dream. Okay.
and and if you have any control, first of all, just getting it is good. So don't ask for too much. Just getting a review is or a video review is amazing. But if you have any control over it, ask them to mention the area they're in or whatever target you are trying to get. I
Yes.
mean, if you're
And
saying
keywords, right? Like the
that's it,
keywords that that you actually
it's
matter, I guess, to Google.
because locales are important. If locales are important to you, getting found in a certain area, then have them mention, yeah, I live in this area. I don't have to say where they live exactly, but area, and they've just been incredible. They work great. All the things that you want them to say within reason, and they're usually very receptive to it. Uh, it's a typically an outgoing person that's going to be willing to do video anyway, so they're
Yes.
usually open to it.
And the other thing I always tell designers, I talk a lot about Google My Business whenever I can. I mean, it's not one of the main parts of interior design community, but I bring it up as much as possible because so many of the designers had gotten onto House and gotten reviews there. And I was like, maybe get reviews on your your Google My Business. That would be probably better for your long-term business success. And so I have designers who actually had a lot of reviews on House that are trying to do that. what do you think about asking multiple people in the same residence for reviews? Like if it is a husband and a wife, is that okay?
A good question. I don't think I've had that one for a long time. Uh, Look at you go. I usually am not surprised anymore. Uh, it's not my recommendation simply
Okay.
because Google already filters out reviews far too often. You'll find people give you reviews and they never appear. It drives me nuts, especially when you get them very rarely and they're very valuable. So whether or not they would see your location based on the reviews could be an issue in terms of which ones might get blocked. Now, if one of them never comes and shows up, ask the other person to do it. Sure.
Right.
Uh, if you're really in a bad place, might want to do it. It's just, it is kind of black hat kind of. It's not, it's
A
certainly not
little
within
tricky.
guidelines.
It's a little bit tricky, but I have seen it work.
I bet. Oh, I'm sure.
I have seen it work.
I try to be above board as much as I can, just
Well,
because
it's
I
just
don't
so
want.
hard because designers aren't like hairdressers or restaurants. They're not getting, they might have a project that they worked on for
Sure.
2 years. So if they could get a review from all of the members of the family, like it's, if it's my family and they've got a mom
Mhm.
and a dad and 20 somethings in the house, then that helps. You know, they got 4 reviews right there.
Now, one thing I think would be great is if the extended family come and look at the house and go, "This is amazing." Those are the people that could leave a review
Oh yeah,
too.
that's true too. I never really thought about like reviews from designers, clients, friends. That's
Look
interesting.
at us go here.
Look at us, we're changing the world. Because they could, you could actually, I've seen this happen where designer, as a gift to the client at the end of a project, instead of like a bottle of wine and a basket, will throw a party sometimes for the design for the client so that they could have like all of their friends over to see their new house,
Mhm.
which is fantastic because often they invite the designer and the designer can meet all the friends that night and maybe get more business. So it would be really cool if they were like, and if you want to give a review of this beautiful place, it's a little salesy, but I mean, if they get to know the client really well and they feel comfortable in that environment, why not go for it,
Well,
right?
and it's content. Content is everything, and even if you're not going to use it right now, you can get video of them saying that. What's their favorite part of the reveal, or would you recommend the person who did this work? Yes, yes. Even if it's just written down in a book, it doesn't matter. This is all going to be valuable to you. Uh, yeah, it's
It's a lot.
incredible getting
It's
reviews.
it's so hard for reviews. I think that it's just a real struggle. And
Oh,
the worst is when they get a bad review. Oh, it breaks my heart because I'm like, they worked so hard and they did everything they could to please that client. And occasionally, it's a money thing. There's
well,
a lot
some
of
can't
money.
be happy.
Yeah. Not and yeah, exactly. Some people are never happy no matter what you do for them. So, it's
Now,
just it's horrible when that happens.
one of the tips I got from my business coach is invaluable, and that is don't forget that while you're working throughout the actual job, there are moments where you could ask for testimonials. It
Right.
doesn't have to be at the end. At
Right.
the end can actually be a problem because they don't really have a need to. They don't feel the commitment anymore. They're moving on.
Right.
Whereas during it, it could be, how do you feel about this? I don't know all the processes of an interior design,
Sure.
but
How did you feel about the
yeah,
floor installation?
yeah.
Could you give me a review on the floor installation? And that is another way you could get multiple reviews from the same family. You could say, could you give me a review about the floor installation to the husband after it's done, and then to the wife when the cabinetry goes in, and there's ways to like parcel it out so that you're maybe not leaving it till the end, and then try at the end when you're doing your photography and your video to get video reviews that can go on your website. Do you
Exactly.
use the video review? Can you put video reviews on a Google My Business page? I don't even know if that's possible.
You can add video.
I know that.
I don't know if I've seen that done. I'd be cautious about that. You certainly need a carefully worded waiver before you could put that up, even if
Right.
Google allows it.
Right. Right. Well, that was, I think that alone is so, so valuable for these
It
for
is.
designers. Do you think, no, what I said earlier about the local SEO is more important to most designers? Do you think that that's true, or what do you think about that?
Yeah, I mean, if they have any kind of a local presence and they're focused on that, then it's everything. I mean, if
Right,
they're an internationally renowned interior designer, then local is not going to mean anything to them, really.
right,
And they don't need to put effort into that. And it is effort. There's no question about it. I have a division of my business that focuses on local. It used to be there was no local, it was just SEO.
right.
And so
Yeah.
many things have changed, but now again, it's fragmented again. And now I've got a local SEO with has totally different requirements for rankings, and then organic SEO, totally different requirements. And yeah, it is a lot of work. And if they don't have to do it, then they can focus on other areas. But it is typically more difficult to be found everywhere
Oh, it is.
unless you are a big brand name.
Right, right. And but I mean, there are designers who are out there in international success that get a lot of press themselves. So I would
Yeah.
assume that would also help them get SEO. What do you think about even on the local front doing collaborative marketing and events with local businesses that attract like-minded people? Like, I think designers really, thinking about the clients that they serve, really need to think about the luxury market in their area as well. And like, what are the local country clubs, the local private schools, the local steakhouses, Pilates studios, the things, nail salons, certain like high-end nail salons and high-end hair salons. Where are the luxury clients going in your local area, and how can you collaborate as a business with some of those other businesses, even in like content for your website? Like if I were, let's just say I would like, I'll go back to Long Island because I have some designer friends there. Um, Shout out to Christine from Ashbourne Designs. And I went to a photo shoot of hers, and there were some great restaurants in town and things like I can imagine you could talk about the local like restaurant in town and talk about their seating and their lighting and how great, a comfortable place it is, and how that helps you want to go there, just like in how you can bring some of that experience to your own home.
Yeah, I think it's fantastic if you can make those connections and build them. It's a win-win. I mean, one of the signals for even it is best for local, but it's excellent no matter what, is sponsoring community, anything in the community, uh, having a membership with a local Better Business Bureau or the bank or the Chamber of Commerce.
Commerce, yeah,
Yeah,
yeah.
doing charity work, having a local contest, getting press, uh, just by sharing with your local news people what's going on. If you are a celebrity
Oh,
or
yeah.
you've done something, um, it's amazing. Probably one of the more exciting areas that we've extended into recently is press releases, but not the kind you'd expect. These aren't the ones that we're trying to get in your local newspaper. These are going to a defined set of websites that are trusted by Google, that are news sites, and it has these are very carefully crafted press releases that look good. They have the information they need. They've got images, but they also um, have Google's own signals built into them. For example, we're embedding images using Google's own image URL of Google posts. We have Google's own API with the Google Map built into the press release. There's tons of great value there, and it's from an
I
SEO
love that.
perspective.
That's so
Yeah,
sneaky.
it is. Yeah, so we do one of those a month for our clients, for many of our
That's
clients,
so
and
great. That is
it
so
works
great. I
really
bet
well.
it does. I bet it does. And I always tell designers that they think, I think often they think that if they're going to get published in a big magazine, Al Decor, House Beautiful, it's a milestone achievement for a lot of designers. And I understand why, because you work your whole life, you probably decided to become a designer by reading some of these magazines. So to appear in it one day is an understandable goal. But
Mhm.
as far as translating to business, I've talked to so many designers who've been nationally published, and sometimes it actually works against you. Sometimes
Mm.
that makes you look like you're more expensive now, or if you're in Architectural Digest, wow, maybe I can't afford her anymore, and they're losing local clients because of it. So I
Mhm.
often say, really thinking about, and that's not to say don't go after that achievement by any means, but what I would say is that it's sometimes even more important for local business to go after those local, opportunities too. So, if there's a local home magazine, things like that, where and even a digital, if there's a digital version of these magazines that can give you links, sometimes that
Mhm.
there's a big credible site, House Beautiful or El Decor has, if they're willing to put a link to you, that helps too. They're a big credible site, and that's giving you authority, correct?
Exactly. And there, like with the Chamber of Commerce, there's also opportunities to be nominated as a business,
Sure.
as a person in business. I was one of my staff members decided to do that years ago, bless his heart. And out of the blue, I came up as runner up as Young Entrepreneur of the Year.
Wow.
I didn't, I was like, well, wow, okay. No idea.
Okay.
It you don't even know unless you try, right?
Sure. Yeah.
And it's maybe I'll need an assistant to help you with this stuff. And offshore assistants are very affordable and they are great. Not all of them,
Right.
but there are some
Right.
great ones. And
I will
I've
also tag in there my Doma. We both know Sarah of Daniele.
of
Yeah, like,
course,
yeah. So my Doma just released a virtual assistant program. So there are some certified my Doma virtual assistants that,
perfect.
they've been through her program, and I would highly recommend them. They know the design industry and they can help. So that would be a perfect example
Awesome.
how to use
Exactly.
somebody that we already love.
Yes. Sarah's amazing. I've seen her in
Yeah,
years. It'd be so nice.
I
Yeah,
know. We need to get together for sure. I
sometime.
was just telling her that. I was like, I did see her not too long ago at a high point, but we
Oh,
definitely
good.
need to put the band back together.
Yes. Oh, wouldn't that be amazing? Uh,
Absolutely. It's going to happen. I believe it.
good.
So
That would be great.
we'll probably close out soon, but I did want to say, are there any other things you think that designers really need to think about when they are just like, okay, my website's outdated. I need to figure this out. This is a goal for 2024 to get my crap together for my website. What do you think that they
Well,
should
one of the things that is fairly new. Of course, we all know about voice. Uh, you talk to Google, whatever, and you ask questions and everything, and how AI is going to be gradually, procedurally built into our rankings. Well, one area that you wouldn't even probably know exists is the knowledge graph, and it's what underlies Google. It's how Google understands the world. It's how everything interconnects semantically. We'll get into all the nerd stuff in there, but there's a knowledge panel. So if someone types in your name, you really should be, and you are a person of significance, you should be showing up. And every interior designer uh, deserves to show for their name.
Right.
And the way to do it is to educate Google on who you are and why you deserve that knowledge panel. And it's totally doable right now. We're doing it for a number of people that are fairly well known in their industries, but it doesn't matter. I'm building mine right now, but it's and yeah, I guess I've been around the block in SEO, but it's still SEO. What cares, right? But I'm still, if someone types in my name, I want to be sure that I can gradually be built. My knowledge panel isn't showing yet, but I'm building and building and building all of the different websites that are connected to me. I can see it improving every time I type my name in. More and more of the results are becoming me versus the other Ross Dunn who happens to be a baseballer. Dang it. He gets way more news than me, so it's hard to
I
compete
know it
against.
all depends on your name. My name, Lori Leisure. There's nobody out there, I think, with Lori Leisure.
Perfect.
But my maiden name was Chambers.
Yes.
So that's a little trickier.
Yeah. Yeah. And if I type in your name right now, I can see you, but you don't have you need a knowledge panel. So
I
that's the
do.
kind of,
I need one.
yeah. And it is amazing when it's done right. It's smoking cool. I mean, you go and look at it and this person is the one I want to work with. It
Right.
looks so compelling. And
Well, so many
yeah,
designers, their website is their name. So that makes perfect sense. It would really fit for the
mhm.
design industry, I think, this
Yeah.
knowledge panel.
And why it's important and why I tied it into AI is that the better your knowledge panel works, and it's a reference to how well Google knows you in the knowledge graph, which is what drives AI. So
Right.
you'll have a better chance in the future of having better visibility. We don't know how that's going to look, but this
No,
is a logical move to build your footprint in the knowledge graph and make all the connections to you clear and verified. So that's what we've been doing. It's a brand new service for us, but it's fun. I've been doing this so
I
long. It's
love
nice
it.
to have something new.
Well, it's like, it reminds me of the old school authorship that Google was
Yes,
trying to do, right? I mean, so it's probably a new version of that.
it's that on 10,000 times more
You're
steroids, but
right.
yeah,
Yeah,
but that's another point is making sure you have an author page or a page that's devoted just to you. Like I've just started rossdunn.com recently, and I make that my entity page. That's what we call it in our industry. And that's where I'm going to start making sure every author page I have links back to say this is who Ross Dunn is. And
right,
so you can have that as just an author page on your site. If you have a business name for your website, then you could just have an author name for you, and that's a page that's devoted to you, and that's where you link to. Or you buy your own domain name and make that your landing page for you and have everyone link to that. It's important because if Google can see it's linking to these, it's going to automatically understand that you're connected,
right,
and you don't have to educate it by using this other tool that I'm using. It is authorship, but it's finally a little more robust. I do miss that though. Wasn't that cool having our own image showing up in
it
results? And
was. I got my image showing up in blog results that I did for brands, for myself. I was psyched about it until it went away.
it shouldn't have gone away. Even if
Shouldn't
the
have.
images don't show up, I thought the whole system was brilliant.
It was because to see that in a Google result, to see a little, byline picture and the person's name, it just gave it an authority, I think,
It did.
that is missing from the
And
internet.
they should have, in
That's what
fact, they should have
Google's
doubled
writing.
down.
Yeah,
Yeah, they should have doubled
absolutely.
down and made it so that we could show this is me, this is me, this is me, and verified that with links. And all of a sudden, Google would understand who you are better, and they
Right.
wouldn't be in the position they are now. I
Well,
see.
that's
We should run Google.
my idea of like, I think that Google Plus should never have ended. Like I think they would actually do pretty well in today's world compared to, I think they were struggling to compete at that time because Instagram was doing, well,
Hmm.
Facebook and then Instagram coming into the picture at, it was just a two punch for them. But I think that,
Right.
the tools that they had and the webinar integration, like a Zoom integration sort of thing, was really brilliant. And it would be probably pretty popular today because people love that video content of like TikTok and things like that. So I'd be curious if they would re-release it someday because I just think it was a really neat platform.
I think so too. And just goes to show even Google can't see the future
No,
because they would have kept it going, I bet then.
they would have if they
Yeah.
knew.
Now, something I reminded myself of that I probably should have mentioned earlier is for the first time, it took long enough. We did the last many podcasts I've done are part of an SEO 101 learning series. So I finally have one where I'm connecting the dots and teaching SEO throughout the SEO 101.
Oh,
So
wonderful.
do keep that in mind. It's not completed
Yes.
yet, but that might help people out too who are just trying to
Yes.
get an understanding of it.
I agree. I mean, I would never, push you to anyone that you shouldn't listen to. And Ross, you already, like you said, you already have hundreds of episodes of free advice out there on SEO 101. So definitely pay attention to the podcast, pay attention to stepforth.com. Ross knows what he's
Thank you.
doing, and he is not going to snake oil salesman you and tell you, oh, I did your website, you have SEO. If you hear that, run, run, run.
Yeah, and the other one is it's a proprietary website. You don't own it, or this content that we're creating for you, you don't own. So if you leave, you're gonna. I mean, I've seen
Oh
heard everything,
gosh. Oh my
and it
gosh.
happens all the time.
It does. It does. It's a little scary actually. Because I think that's why designers are so like, I don't understand it. I don't trust it. I don't know anything about that. And it's very overwhelming. And I feel for them because that process is just so riddled with expense and a lack of understanding. So it's hard to know who you can trust and who you can't. It's not
Yeah.
like a designer, for instance, where you can see the work, and know that, okay, they know what they're doing, I mean, really, you don't know if that client was at all happy with that. I
Mhm.
mean, just because the site looks fine doesn't mean it's performing.
No. And that's why when you talk to an SEO company and you want to consider working with them, make sure to talk to past clients or
Yes.
existing clients.
Are they
Uh,
getting leads? Are they getting leads? Like, that's the key, because what is the website if it's not getting you leads, if it's not getting you potential clients, right?
right. Yeah.
Yeah.
And
All
build a
right.
relationship long term. That's,
Yes.
I think, the goal. Everyone wants that, but I don't think they lead with that. I
I think
always say,
that's one thing I think designers are great at. I mean, I can't tell you how many designers have built their business on referrals. They, sometimes work with clients 5, 6 times, and
right.
all of their friends. And so a lot of designers rely on referrals for business. And I would say, if I asked designers today, where are most of your clients coming from? Most of them will answer referrals. So
Mhm.
it's still a huge factor for them, and they have great relationships with their clients, and continue to service them over time. But this stuff, the website stuff, is just like, ugh, it's just overwhelming, I think. Yeah,
And it's getting more so. It never seems to stop.
that's bad news. Well, thank you so much, Ross. I really
Oh,
appreciate you being
my
here. And I
pleasure.
hope our community responds and reaches out to you, because you are such a great friend and resource to me. And I just am so glad to share your knowledge with my community.
Oh, it's so great to be back on the show. It's amazing to think
Too
that
long.
that's how we met, is through
Yes,
exactly this kind of thing. So it's pretty cool.
yes, yes, absolutely. Thank
Thank
you.
you so much for the time.
All right.